So to start things off, there are essentially 4 things that you need to keep in mind for having good account authority on TikTok. What's up, you guys? It's Joseph here. Today's video is going to be discussing an aspect of TikTok that is extremely advantageous for growth if you can understand it and apply it correctly. If you're struggling with getting views on the platform and just increasing your influence in your audience in general, this video is going to give you a major opportunity to help kickstart your success on the platform. The subject for today's video is TikTok account authority, also known as account ranking or account grading. Now, all TikTok accounts are created equal, but that universal equality soon loses its applicability as soon as you start posting your very first video. See, every single account on the platform, from Zach King's all the way to the very accounts that were created this very minute, are given a grading, a rank by TikTok. In other words, it's a determination by the TikTok algorithm how great your videos are, how amazing your profile is. So this is what we're going to be discussing today: account authority / account ranking / account grading on TikTok. What does this even mean, and how, more importantly, you can take that information, apply it to your profile to start skyrocketing your numbers both in views and fans. But if you're interested in learning more about this, I've also linked a few articles in the description below that talk about this in a bit more detail. And I've also linked an interview that I found extremely helpful by Pro Church Tools, where they talk about this idea of account grading in a bit more depth. So you can check those out below. And I've also put a free resource down there as well that I created called the TikTok Tip Offs, which basically covers a bunch of undervalued strategies that not a lot of people are using in 2020 to grow their business, to grow their personality-based account. So that's a free resource for you if you're interested. You can check that out below. That being said, and without further ado, let's talk TikTok. So to start things off, there are essentially 4 things that you need to keep in mind for having good account authority on TikTok. The first 5 videos, deleted videos, theme uniformity, and view tiers. So let's start off by talking about the first 5 videos on your account. When you are creating a new account on TikTok, you're just jumping on as a new user, or perhaps you're creating a second profile for whatever reason, you don't want to use your first 5 to 10 videos as a testing ground for content ideas. Now, don't get me wrong, there is no previous bias that TikTok has against any of your videos. You're starting with a blank slate. But what it is important to note is that TikTok looks heavily at the first 5 videos that you output and the performance of those videos to determine your overall authority ranking, especially as a new user. So this rank that you're given by TikTok does come with some benefits, and we'll get into those just a little bit later on in this video when we start talking about view tiers, which is a very important concept to understand. But the key takeaway for this point here of the first 5 videos is TikTok looks at those first 5 videos to determine the overall performance of your account as a new user. So needless to say, make them good videos, put significant effort into creating them, and they don't have to be all posted at the same time. It's not like these first 5 videos all have to be posted within 5 days, and if you don't do that, then you somehow won't have a good account authority. But the idea here is make those first 5 videos the best representation of what your account has to offer to TikTok. So let's talk about the second aspect of account authority, and that is deleted videos. Now, this is a really interesting concept because it's probably the #1 question that I get in the comment section about TikTok. What do I do with deleted videos? You know, under what circumstances can I actually delete a video? Things of that nature. And I'm actually going to be discussing this in a bit more depth in a video that's coming out in a couple of weeks that's going to be talking about this concept, because it really needs a separate video to discuss it and give it its due discussion. But in short, here's my answer. Do not delete a video on your TikTok unless the views on the video are less than 1% of your overall fan base. In other words, if you have 100 followers and the video gets 1 view, it's 1% or less in your fan base. After a few days, if it's still sitting at 1 view, go ahead and delete it. But here's what you want to keep in mind. Unlike platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, where the average life cycle of exposure is typically very, very short, like 24 hours until we don't see that piece of content in our feeds anymore, TikTok will actually periodically restart the distribution cycle of your content. In other words, TikTok will actually give your content a second chance for virality. The word on the street coined for this idea is a delayed explosion. So needless to say, if your videos don't receive copious views within the first 24 hours or within the first week, give it some time, because that very, very same video that has 10 views might be at 1,000 if you just gave it 8 days. I mean, honestly, deleting videos, like any other action on your account, does significantly affect your account authority. But why is that? Why is deleting a TikTok video not a recommended action? Well, the reason is if you're constantly deleting videos that didn't perform well after the first few hours or the first few days, what's gonna happen is TikTok is gonna view your account as one that has a high rate of poor performing videos as you're constantly deleting them, right? And it's gonna be harder and harder for you to rank past that second tier or that third tier of account authority, which we'll talk about what exactly that means later on in this video. But before we jump into that and have that discussion, the third caveat that I want to discuss briefly is theme uniformity, which is the third major factor that heavily influences your account authority on TikTok. So what do I mean by this? Theme uniformity essentially is your industry or your niche and how well your content sticks to that theme. I've talked about this before, but I can't stress how important it is, especially for a new user. And by new user, honestly, I mean anyone over around 30,000 followers. You should be building that initial core fan base around a central theme, a central idea, a central lens through which you produce content for TikTok. Because if you think about it and you take a step back and you look at the big picture, and I say this as someone who's grown multiple accounts on TikTok, TikTok ultimately fundamentally wants to promote you and wants to promote the content that you curate that's proven to do well. If you're posting trending dance videos using dance hashtags and utilizing relevant songs in the dance world, then you are going to build up an account authority, however big, however small, in that niche. If you do that, and then on the other hand, you start creating fancy glitter videos, which do perform well for those who usually make that their primary form of content, you'll notice that your account authority will start to reset as you're now creating something new and foreign to what your account has been known for and previously established to perform well with. So in other words, try to grow a following as a new user around one type of content. Make sense? So let's talk about the fourth aspect of TikTok account authority, and that is account tiers or view tiers. Now, I already did address this in depth, super in depth. I made a 16-minute video about it where I talk about the TikTok algorithm and what the different tiers mean, the significance of them, and the benefits to account authority, which you can find in this video right here. But in short, here's what you need to know. Depending on how awesome your videos are and how committed, how dedicated, how active you are on TikTok, you will be able to skip certain levels of content distribution. Now, it is debatable how many tiers do exist in the process of content distribution. And by tiers, I essentially mean different levels of how many views your video is getting. 4 makes the most sense for me. I found that that seems like the most reasonable explanation of how the algorithm works. Regardless, we do know that TikTok uses a tier-based system for the distribution of your videos and for views, as confirmed by an actual TikTok employee. Again, if you want to take a look at this in more detail, you can check the links in the description. So let's talk about these 4 tiers. So tier number 1 is essentially automatic distribution. TikTok shows your video to your pre-existing fan base, but also to what we would call a cold audience, a batch of around 300 to 500 users who aren't familiar with you, who don't know you, and the TikTok algorithm looks at specifically their reactions to that video based on engagement variety, the different forms of engagement that there are, likes, comments, shares, etc., engagement velocity, how fast they engage with the video once seeing it, and finally watch time / rewatches, which is one of the most important aspects that will determine whether your video is worth pushing to a larger audience. Some of these actions are more valuable than others. For instance, TikTok is always going to prefer comments over likes and rewatches over both of those. So usually this process lasts for about 2 hours, this whole distribution to this cold audience. And that's why posting at the right time is so important. And I talk about this in other videos as well. I'm just going to mention this now, the idea of finding your prime time. If you upgrade to a TikTok Pro account, you can actually look at your analytics and see when your audience is most active, and that is the prime time to post your videos at. So once your video is uploaded, it's shown to that 300 to 500 user base, and these are usually people within your niche or industry, and that's determined by your previously established account authority or a mix of hashtags that you use as well. And that's why using relevant hashtags is so important, because it often determines whether or not your content is going to be shown to people who are actually interested in what you have to share. Again, I go over all these elements in the TikTok algorithm video here on my channel, which I would encourage you to check out after this video. But just know that your account authority influences how well you do in tier 1, and how well you do in tier 1 will determine whether or not your content is pushed to tier 2. Tier number 2 is at 1,000 to 10,000 view range. And again, just like tier number 1, TikTok is looking at the likes, the comments, the shares, the rewatches, and watch completion rate is something that is truly undervalued for TikTok, because this is something that you have access to for individual videos. If you look at account analytics, again, this you can have access to this by upgrading to a TikTok Pro account. But if I took a look at all of the viral videos that I've had, and I'm talking to anything that has over 2 million views, you'll notice that the watch time is just crazy high. For an 8-second video, the watch time might be 24 seconds, which means someone watched it 3 times. So that is probably the number one thing you should focus on for your content. If there was a takeaway for this tier number 2 discussion, it would be to engage users enough so that they have to rewatch the video to see something that happened, that engaged them, that pulled them in. So tier number 3 is at 50,000 to 1 million view range. Now, to pass this tier, there is a content review check that happens by TikTok just to make sure that there isn't any sort of inappropriate content or otherwise a violation of the terms of service. Some say that it's not an automated process and that there's actually a manual review by a human being, a TikTok employee, whose sole purpose is to literally determine with a stamp of approval whether your content should be let loose to potentially millions of people. But regardless if that's true or not, we do know that a content check happens at this point at tier number 3, because videos do get taken down for legitimate reasons. Tier number 4, the viral video tier. Only a select few creators on the platform are at the point where every single one of their videos makes it this far. Zach King, Charlie D'Amelio, Lauren Gray, Josh VFX, Baby Ariel. Pretty much every single one of their videos getting 3 million plus views. So these 4 tiers are the 4 levels that our content has to pass through in order to get that sanction of virality that we all so desperately want our content to have. And the reason why these tiers are so important to understand is because it allows us to understand on an even greater level the benefits of having a high account authority ranking. The better your account performs, the more tiers you will often skip. For instance, I have an account that almost every single video after upload gets around 80,000 views, which means most likely that the account as a whole performs well enough that each video after upload probably skips tier 1 and goes directly to 2 or 3. So the takeaway here at the end of this video is really to start optimizing your account for a higher ranking, because it's honestly going to help you in the long run by giving you more exposure to larger audiences much faster. So that about concludes this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly hope it was of somewhat value to you. If it was, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below and also consider subscribing to this channel as well. If this whole idea of talking about TikTok and taking your influence on the platform to the next level appeals to you, let me know in the comment section down below. And also, drop your TikTok handle below as well so that I can check out your content and leave a comment on one of your videos to help you with that engagement process. So thank you so much for sticking around. Catch you guys in the next video, and we'll talk later. Next time. Cheers.